Have you ever wondered how Inuits were able to build a real igloo? In today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how it was built. Not just a model or a simulation, but a real functioning igloo, made entirely from snow, within just 1 hour. That's right, the Inuit people, who have lived in some of the coldest, harshest environments on Earth, developed a way to construct a warm, insulated shelter out of nothing more than snow and their bare hands. It's a fascinating blend of ancient knowledge, survival instinct, and pure craftsmanship. Let's take a journey into the Inuit and explore this incredible skill that has been passed down for generations. Before we dive into the step-by-step process, it's important to understand a bit about who the Inuit are and why igloos were such an important part of their lives. The Inuit, often mistakenly referred to as Eskimos, are indigenous peoples who inhabit the Arctic regions of Greenland, Canada, and Alaska. For centuries, they've lived in some of the most extreme conditions on Earth. Regions where temperatures can drop well below freezing, winds can be relentless, and snowfall is frequent and heavy. Yet, despite these challenges, the Inuit not only survived, they thrived. One of their most iconic innovations is the Igloo, a snow house that's not just a shelter, but a masterclass in engineering. Now, to truly appreciate how they build an igloo in just 1 hour, we need to understand the nature of the materials they use. You might be thinking, how can snow be used as a building block? It's snow soft, powdery, and weak. The truth is, not all snow is created equal. The Inuit use a very specific type of snow, hard-packed, wind-blown snow that has been compressed naturally by the elements. This kind of snow is strong enough to cut into blocks and stacked without collapsing under its own weight. The first step in building an igloo begins with selecting the perfect site. The Inuit don't just stop anywhere and start digging. They look for an area with a deep enough layer of packed snow, preferably away from any loose drifts or soft spots. Once the right spot is chosen, they begin by marking out a circle on the ground. This circle will define the base of the igloo. The diameter of this circle usually ranges from about 8 to 10 feet, depending on how many people the igloo needs to shelter. With the foundation marked, the next step is to begin cutting snow blocks. Traditionally, the Inuit use a long snow knife, often made from bone, ivory, or more recently metal. The snow is sliced into rectangular blocks about 2 feet long, 1 foot high, and 6 inches thick. These dimensions may vary slightly, but the key is consistency. The blocks need to be even, solid, and shaped precisely to fit together snugly. Once the blocks are cut, the builder begins placing them around the perimeter of the circle. But here's where the magic starts. Instead of laying the blocks flat in a horizontal ring, the Inuit angle the blocks slightly inward and start building in a spiral. This inward tilt is critical because it allows the igloo to form a dome shape, distributing weight evenly and making the structure incredibly strong. The spiral also means that each block supports the one above and beside it, locking the entire structure into place like a giant jigsaw puzzle. As the wall rises, the builder continues to carve each new block to fit precisely into the growing spiral. There's no mortar, no glue, just snow, and yet, the fit is so tight that wind can't get through. The builder often uses the snow knife to shave down high spots and reshape the blocks as needed. They work quickly, but with great precision. The cold helps. Since snow doesn't melt, they can handle it easily and work for long periods without worrying about it losing shape. One of the most astonishing parts of the build is how the roof is closed. The spiral continues upward until there's only a small hole left at the very top. The final block, called the keystone, is carefully shaped and gently lowered into place from inside the structure. Once the keystone is in, the igloo becomes a complete dome. And from that point, it can actually support the weight of a full-grown adult standing on top of it without collapsing. But building the shell is only part of the process. Once the igloo is complete, the builder enters through a small hole at the base. This is usually just a simple tunnel carved out of the snow leading into the interior. Once inside, the builder uses loose snow to fill in any gaps between the blocks, sealing out drafts. This step is crucial for insulation. You might wonder, how warm can a snow house really be? The answer is surprisingly warm. While the temperature outside might be minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, the inside of an igloo can remain around 20 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit, just from body heat and the insulation properties of the snow. Sometimes the Inuit even place a small oil lamp called a corlick inside the igloo for light and a little extra warmth. Even more brilliant is how the floor is arranged. Most igloos are built with a slightly raised sleeping platform inside. Cold air is heavier than warm air, so it settles to the bottom. By raising the sleeping area above the floor, the Inuit keep themselves in the warmest part of the space. It's subtle design choices like this that show the true ingenuity behind the igloo. Now remember, we're only about 20 minutes into the build at this point. A skilled Inuit builder, often working alone or with just one assistant, can cut the blocks, build the spiral, fit the keystone, and seal the igloo all within an hour. That's the result of generations of knowledge, practice, and adaptation to the environment. So, to recap, choose the right snow and location, Mark a circular foundation. Cut consistent blocks of compact snow, build in a spiral with an inward tilt. Place the keystone to finish the dome. Seal gaps with loose snow. Carve the entrance tunnel. Raise the sleeping area inside. This process might seem simple when explained step by step, but it's a highly developed survival technique that reflects a deep understanding of the environment. Because the story of the igloo is not just about snow blocks and survival. It's about a way of life, a tradition, and a remarkable legacy of environmental wisdom. The igloo, or igloo in Inuktitut, wasn't just a temporary shelter. In many cases, it served as a warm and safe home during long hunting trips or while traveling across the tundra. It was efficient, practical, and built entirely from the natural materials available in the Arctic. Where trees are scarce, stones are frozen under layers of snow, and warmth is a luxury. But the igloo wasn't a one-size-fits-all structure. Depending on the situation and purpose, the Inuit built different types and sizes of igloos. There were generally three categories: temporary igloos. These were small, quickly built structures, often made in an hour or less, during hunting trips. These are the igloos we're focusing on today, the ones built fast, yet strong and warm. Semi-permanent igloos. These were larger, more carefully constructed, often used by families for several weeks at a time. They took longer to build and had more interior planning, such as separate sleeping areas or storage space. Community igloos. These were the largest, designed to host gatherings or ceremonies. Some had connecting tunnels and multiple rooms, almost like a small snow village. What's incredible is that, despite using only snow, the Inuit could adapt the size, structure, and features of the igloo based on their needs. For larger igloos, 2 or 3 builders might work together, forming a construction team that communicated with gestures and intuition more than words. Let's talk more about the snow itself, because it's not just the material. It's the miracle at first glance. Snow seems soft, cold, and fragile. But the type of snow used in igloo building has been hardened by wind and time. It's compact enough to be carved like wood, but light enough to carry. Its insulation power comes from the air trapped inside its structure. Snow is over 90% air, which makes it one of the best natural insulators on Earth. And that's why, paradoxically, a house made of frozen water can be warm. Once the igloo is built, it undergoes a fascinating transformation. Inside, the warmth from the occupants and possibly a small lamp causes a thin layer of the inner wall to melt slightly. But as soon as the people leave or the lamp is extinguished, the temperature drops again, and that thin layer re-freezes into a crust of ice. This ice layer hardens the walls, making the igloo even stronger than before. It becomes a self-reinforcing structure. Each night it's used, it becomes more durable. The entrance tunnel of the igloo is another stroke of genius. It serves multiple purposes. Firstly, it prevents wind from blowing directly into the main chamber. Since the tunnel slopes downward before rising into the living area, cold air stays trapped in the tunnel rather than circulating inside. Secondly, it acts like a cold trap. Any air that's colder than inside the igloo will naturally settle in the tunnel, not the living space. Inside the igloo, it's not unusual to see animal skins laid on the raised sleeping platforms. These not only provide comfort but also extra insulation from the cold. The Inuit were experts in using every part of an animal: caribou, seal, polar bear, for warmth, nutrition, tools, and shelter. Nothing was wasted, and everything was appreciated. It was a culture built on respect for the land and its creatures. Now, let's talk about the skill it takes to cut those perfect snow blocks. It's not just strength that matters. It's the builder's touch, rhythm, and understanding of the snow's texture. A snow knife, gliding through the packed snow, must follow smooth, steady motions. The edges of the block must be square, the surface flat. If a block is too thin, it will crack. If it's too thick, it becomes heavy and hard to handle. Every builder develops a feel for the snow, the way it sounds, the way it resists the blade, the way it reflects the sunlight. Some Inuit children start learning this craft by watching their elders and practicing with smaller igloos. That brings us to another important point. The igloo is not just a survival shelter. It's also a classroom. In Inuit cure, children learn by doing. There's no chalkboard, no formal curriculum, just snow, tools, stories, and guidance from elders. A child may begin by carrying snow blocks, then shaping them, then stacking them, until eventually they can build their own igloo from start to finish. The skill is passed down generation by generation, and with each new learner, the tradition lives on. You may be wondering, do the Inuit still build igloos today? The answer is yes, but not as frequently. With modern materials and housing available, permanent homes made from wood and insulation are now common in many Arctic communities. However, the igloo remains a powerful symbol of Inuit heritage. It is still taught, respected, and sometimes used on hunting trips, in cultural demonstrations, or during traditional gatherings. It reminds people of a time when survival depended on knowledge, resourcefulness, and a deep connection to the land. Building an igloo in 1 hour is not a race. Each step, from potting the first block to placing the keystone, is carried out with precision and calm. There's no panic, no rush, no wasted motion. And that's perhaps the most beautiful part of it all. In a world that often values speed and technology, the igloo stands as a quiet, snowy testament to human ingenuity, patience, and harmony with nature. Imagine this: you're standing on an endless white plain. The sky is clear, the wind is soft but sharp. You kneel into the snow, pull out your snow knife, and begin cutting the first block. The sound is quiet, just a whisper of blade against ice. 1 block, 2 blocks, 5 blocks. You stack them, spiraling inward and upward. Time slips by. Your hands are cold, but your mind is focused. Before long, the dome begins to close. You shape the final block, slide it into place, and seal the roof. You step inside. The world outside is cold, wide, and silent. But inside there is calm. The wind is gone. The air is still. The snow glows faintly, reflecting light. It's warm, not by any electrical device, but from the ancient embrace of design and nature. You sit down on the raised platform, pull a blanket of fur around your shoulders, and rest in a shelter built entirely from snow. In just 1 hour. And that is how the Inuit build a real igloo.